Good morning, everybody. For those that are ready, let's go ahead and start turning those cameras on. We're gonna give everybody a few minutes to get in. So for the first couple of minutes, we'll just have some chit chat, some talking. Let's catch up. Marcus, man, it's good to see you, brother. How you doing?
Doing okay. A little bit of upheaval. There's been some changes, but we're good. I'm on track again. It took a bit, but but I'm on track.
Okay, got it, got it. So are we starting law school this fall?
No, I'm gonna apply this cycle because of what happened. My girlfriend is no longer with us, so that kind of
Um,
sidetracked me for a bit. So I was like, you know what? Let me reset myself and get everything straight. So LSAT is in November. I'll be applying this cycle, so I'm ready to go with everything.
Got it. Okay, we're still here to get some early information and get ready. Sounds good, man. Glad to have you. Let's hear from a few other people. Tiana, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. So, what about you? Are you starting law school this fall? Are you in the middle of your semester yet?
Yes, I just finished orientation on Friday and classes start on Monday.
Okay, awesome. So, what school are you going to?
IU McKinney.
Awesome, awesome. So, with this law school 101, pretty much where I want to start is getting a little bit of a pulse for the people in the class. So, how are you feeling so far, right? About to start your first year of law school. Are there nerves? Are there excitement? And, give some specifics as to, what is causing each one of those.
Yeah, for me, feeling a little nervous, just the vast amount of reading. But I have a schedule, so that makes it manageable.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. But I'm also
Okay.
like empowered to like get started because this has been like a lot of work to get to this moment.
Yes, I'm sure it has. Exactly. It's a long journey. And in some ways, the journey is just beginning now that you're actually in. Just to unpack that a little bit more. So you were saying that you are a little nervous about the reading. So what about the reading in particular is kind of throwing you off?
I don't think I think it's just like the vast amount of reading. I
Got
want to
it.
ensure that I'm able to like comprehend all of it.
Yes.
So that's kind of what's bringing on a little bit of the stress.
Understood, understood. Got it. Yes. And that is definitely real, everybody. For those, right, transitioning to law school, the amount of reading you do, especially in your first year, is really unlike anything else. And, if it gives you any bit of comfort or hope, Tiana, I came to law school from Howard University Business School, in which we didn't necessarily do a lot of reading and writing. There was a lot of clinical stuff, a lot of practical stuff, getting out there, negotiating, talking, a lot of in the field practice, right? But as far as reading and writing, not a whole lot. So that was a big transition coming into law school. And it's definitely something that you'll adjust to, So I can give you that comfort, right? It's kind of like anything else, like marathon training. I haven't trained for a marathon right now. I like to run like a mile, maybe two. The idea of running 26 miles, like, how could I? But I know that if I went through the proper training and got through it, it's like, oh, I'd be able to get up there as well. And then look back on like, oh my gosh, remember when I was only reading, one or two pages a day? Now I'm reading hundreds. So thanks for sharing that. And yeah, definitely feel like don't worry about that. You'll definitely get used to that new workload. All right, so let's go. We got people coming in. Let's go with one more person just to kind of get a little feel for everybody's at. Dominic, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome, brother. So are you 1L starting law school as well?
So I am 1L. I've already started. I'm at a part-time uh school. So we've finished almost the first year. But still
Okay.
definitely looking to get some tips, especially since I'm working full time. Still, doing this part-time law school, so just ways to better memorize, the black letter law and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Got it. Yeah. So I would tell you that for the presentation that we're having, about the first 15, 20 minutes of it are going to be really geared towards, I would say, that 1L year and what they should be expecting. But there's going to be definitely some value on the back half, talking about resources you can use to optimize your law school experience. So yeah, glad you're joining us, even though you're not in that traditional 1L entering experience. And yeah, glad to have you. All right. So, everybody, I'm curious to see, we can't talk to everybody just to get started, but everybody put in the chat, where you're at. So, like grade level and what school you're at. All right. So, go ahead and just put that in the chat. So, I'm a 1L at McGeorge. I'm a 2L at Michigan State, whatever it may be. Let's see what you guys got. And then while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and get the presentation started. Okay. Janelle, see you in here. Awesome to see you. 2L at Franklin, applying for fall 2025, 2L at College of Law. Hannah, good to see you, Hannah. So Hannah, a lot of the content that we have in here for where you're at, Hannah, are you there? Can you speak with me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So for where you're at in the semester, I would really say, because right, your finals are next week, huh?
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't imagine much of this is going to be of high benefit. What is it that you, just out of curiosity, what is it that you were looking or hoping to get out of it?
Honestly, just a refresher as I finish up this first period and going into second period, what I can apply and start with right off the bat to make sure my second period is good to go.
Got it. Yeah. I would say here, I'm going to send you, I appreciate you coming and trying to get more information. I'm going to put in my email in the chat here. And then
Okay.
I want you to email me. And if you're available later today, I'll give you a call just so we could chat a little bit more. And just see what, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes we can have about, what I think would be really beneficial as you get ready for those finals. And then we could talk about giving you this recording for next semester and things like that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Hannah, talk soon. And then here's the email. Perfect. Okay. So Law School 101, let's go ahead and jump into it. So here's an overview of what we're going to discuss. Here we have the roadmap to success, tips to prepare for the journey, and then how Legally Fit can help. All right. And all three of these are going to be really good as far as a big picture, again, as to what to expect in that 1L year. How Legally Fit can help is going to be universal for students in all grade levels. But the roadmap to success and tips to prepare are really good for those 1Ls. So let's start off with the roadmap to success. Okay. So created this, and this is really good to visualize your entire fall semester, right? Or an entire semester for that matter. So what I created here was the steps and then also the months associated with those steps to give you an idea of where you should be throughout the process. The reality is that law school really is a very demanding environment that asks you to develop a lot of skills, and it wants you to understand the law at a sufficient level to be able to do well on these finals. So there's all these things to do and all these adjustments to make to this new learning environment, and you cannot do it all at once. That is what results in the running around like a chicken with your head cut off feeling when you're just like, trying to do it all and maybe trying to skip steps. So what I've created for you, and you can see this here, is the baby steps to how you get to acing those finals. So let's talk through it. July and August, is preparing for the journey. And when I say August, for a while, we started school in September. So for those that are starting school or already in the middle of their semester or started their semester, it's essentially ending that preparing journey. But for those that come across this roadmap early enough, you can use July and August to really get into the right mental state, to really get a clear big picture of what to expect in law school and things like that. Okay. So this is all preparing for the journey. Now, for all of us, August through September, we're going to be learning the fundamentals of law school. Tiana, let me go back to you. And just out of curiosity, let's see, what comes to mind when I say mastering the fundamentals? What type of things do you think are going to fall in that realm?
Like case briefing,
Yes.
taking notes while you're reading the cases, like just
Good.
preparing for class.
Okay, what else? Anything else? Anybody else have any ideas what some fundamentals might be? We got case briefing and reading.
Stupid analysis.
Nah, we're not gonna call it stupid. And no, that's not gonna be under the fundamentals. That's gonna definitely be more so under the test taking skills when we get to that phase of really how to get into that analysis. It's gonna be things like outlining. It's gonna be, right. How many of us so far in orientation and whatnot have heard the phrase or the mnemonic IRAC? So you want to get IRAC down. You want to know how to note take. You want to know where your study environment is. You want to get into the habit of outlining all these things. So we'll have a list of that. We'll share that at a later time, but this is the time to master your fundamentals, right? And like any master of their craft, a master of their craft, in my opinion, appreciates each phase. So that way they can properly build on top of it. So I want you guys to appreciate August and September, right? With, again, all the fundamentals that I'll later give you of what you want to focus on here, to truly appreciate doing that. Because if you can truly master the fundamentals in this time frame, then you'll be ready and poised to master the test taking skills that then come in September and October. Right. And then that's where you'll get into this, as Janelle mentioned, analysis, right? The analysis of law school, of legal writing is so unique and so different. A lot of people will always say, like, law school changed the way that I thought, and it changed the way that I write. So this is where we'll get into that when you get into test taking skills. And then you have preparing for finals. And preparing for finals is essentially where you're bringing it all home and all together. All right. And again, that's why you want this to like step on top of each other. You've mastered the fundamentals. Now you have the test taking skills. You're reviewing everything. You're bringing it all together to prepare. You're doing practice essays. And then the last step is to simply go into your finals prepared and ready to go. Okay. So yeah, these are the steps. I promise you, if you follow them, you don't get ahead of yourself. You don't get nervous for the next stage. Stay present in the stage that you're in, right? You're going to do just fine. And so we'll talk a little bit more about these stages later on in this presentation. Okay. Any questions on the roadmap to success before we progress? Okay. So now let's talk about your typical 1L fall semester, okay? So most 1Ls across the country, no matter what school that you're at, you're going to have a legal writing course, okay? And then you're going to have your doctrinal courses. Your doctrinal courses are going to be your subjects of law, right? Your contracts, your property, your torts, civil procedure, etc. This is where you're going to be actually learning the law and having to apply it. Okay. All of these classes have a similar flow to them. Okay. So for right now, we're going to group all these together as doctrinal courses. And in a moment, we're going to get into the weeds of doctrinal courses, how they work, what the challenges are, and here are some solutions to make sure you handle these well. And then same for your legal writing course. Typically, you just have one course that's considered your legal writing course, and it has its own challenges and its own flow and how it goes. Okay, so we're going to break down both. Let's start with the legal writing course. Okay, so first off, your legal writing course, the way it's going to work is that it's going to start by introducing you to different skills of legal writing. Again, legal writing is not like anything else you've seen. It has a completely different structure to it, right? And approach. And so you need to learn this new system of writing. Okay, so throughout the semester, you'll be taught research summarizing skills, and right, how to take all these facts and extract out only the ones that are relevant for your discussion. You're going to learn how to take multiple rules, right? Maybe you have 3 different rules, and how can you synthesize that down into one rule? Okay. The art of using precedent to support your arguments, right? Something that's so big and it's a recurring theme in law school is that you are using previous cases, previous examples to support your current argument. Okay. And then also how to use an appropriate tone. Okay, so when you get to the bar, right, and a lot of legal writing professors follow suit here, right, you have to have different skills depending on what your task may be from your supervising attorney once you graduate. There might be times where you need to write a memo for the court, right? So a memo for the court needs to be very structured, very formal, right? Have the right tone. But what if you're going to be writing a client letter? Well, your client letter maybe needs to be still, right, have some legal terms in there, but maybe it's a little bit more informal and you're communicating to this client to really make sure they understand what you are explaining. So you have to break things down a little bit more. There's a difference between persuasive writing versus objective writing. All things you'll learn, but that's what we mean by tone. And so you have to be able to go in and out of these different tones. And that's, again, skills that you'll be learning. So after your professor introduces all these skills, right, and as they're doing it throughout this semester, you'll also have graded assignments typically, right? And so typically throughout this legal writing course, you'll be quizzed or tested on the different skills you're being taught, and you'll likely have to submit a draft of your final paper that's typically for a grade. So for example, it's like, oh, this week we're going to be learning how to synthesize rules. Well, I want you to take these 5 rules and synthesize it down to 1 and submit it, and I'm going to grade it, and that's worth 5% of your grade, right? So little assignments like that are something that you can look out for. Now that takes us to the end of your legal writing course, which is typically a final paper. All right. And it is very common, check your syllabus, but it is very common for your legal writing course to have a final paper that's due in November, which is before your finals in December. So it's kind of weird in that you have something that's worth your final grade essentially in the middle of your semester, right around the time that you're like starting to ramp up and really try to prepare for finals for these 4 other classes. So it's key that you have time management. We'll talk about this in a second, but yeah, I want you guys to have that on your brain that typically those papers are due early. And then see the note here and look again into your syllabus. Some professors also incorporate a timed exam. Nothing to worry about right now, but again, just want to put that on your brain. Some do it. And again, professors are doing this because it mimics what you have to do on the bar exam, where in an hour and a half, you have to essentially write a paper. And so they want to mimic that to start giving you some early training. Okay, so that's your legal writing course. Any questions? Go ahead and raise your digital hand if you guys have any questions on your legal writing course. Okay, and if I don't get any hands, because I always feel like they're swirling about out there, I'm going to call on somebody. Okay, Vianney, there we go. There they're coming. So Vianney, what's your question?
Hi, yeah. So my question is, you mentioned Iraq. So how do we kind of reconcile like different law schools do different things? Like for my orientation, it was actually just this past week, and they just kind of put it out there that we're going to be doing like CREAC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I'm gonna give a quick answer to it, and then we actually have a really awesome video on YouTube that's Can Somebody Explain Iraq that really goes into Iraq in depth and talks about the different variations. So I'll give you a quick answer, and then check out our YouTube channel, and you'll see it's called Can Somebody Explain Iraq if you want more. So really quickly with that, VNA, all schools, right, you want your base understood to be is Iraq. Now, when you get to legal writing, and especially the professor that you have, they can have variations, and one of them is CREAC. And even as you can see in the mnemonic, right, I'll put it in the chat just so we can see it. Iraq is IRAC, and then CREAC is CREAC typically. You have a lot of the same components. The C is the same. is conclusion at the beginning and conclusion at the end. So it's a little bit different here that they want like a conclusion sandwich. They want you to start off by saying, this person is guilty, right? And then the rule explanation typically is going into the rules that you'll be using to support your analysis, right? And then it's the rule, and then it's the explanation of the rule, and then A is the analysis. Okay, so it'll be hard to get into all of the detail, but all it is a variation that you adjust if that is what your professor is saying they want. But when you get to your doctrinal courses, it's very rare to use CREAC. So double check, but I can't imagine it's a school-wide, professor-wide thing to use CREAC. That's more popular for your legal writing course. Sound
Okay,
good?
thank you.
Yeah. All right, Angel.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, my question is, I was hearing that with the doctrinal classes, you're reading and preparing and doing case briefs throughout the semester. And
Correct.
some people were saying that with the legal writing assignments, you'll be on track for case briefing for your doctrinals and preparing for that. But then a legal writing assignment will come up and you have to reshape how you do your assignments and case briefs with that assignment for that legal writing class. Can you offer some tips
Mm.
for that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I'm going to put that question on the back burner just for a second, because I think we're going to address most of it in our next slide, but I'm happy you asked.
Thank you.
Okay. So hang tight, and then I'll come back to you to make sure all of it was answered. All right. And then is it Talisha?
It's Talicia. Thank you. No worries.
Talicia. Yes. What's your question?
We're in week 2. We haven't really specifically been giving any assignments, but we have been asked to make sure that our legal writing professor walks us through how to write and understand MBEs. We're told that on our final, we're going to have 35 NBEs and 2 essays.
In your legal, is this your legal writing course, or is this like a fundamentals course or foundations course, et cetera? Because MBEs are multiple choice. It sounds like you'll be getting tested on the actual law, which then is more connected to doctrinal subjects.
Correct, but our legal writing professors have to make sure that we understand how to look for the information in the readings to synthesize and do MBEs along with our written essays for our finals.
Okay, so yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of law school and the variance and the creativity that professors have, that they'll kind of have different aspects of what they incorporate into their course. So yeah, that's different. I haven't heard of a legal writing course implementing that, but that sounds awesome. So is there a question that you have regarding it?
Yes, would it be is it part of your course that we go over some MBEs or just the writing tips and
Yeah,
the process?
So then, yeah, we'll get to then also some information on with my course and things that we can assist with. And yes, the quick answer is that we do assist with multiple choice preparation, essay preparation, et cetera.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. All right, so here's the rundown. The challenge. Okay. The challenge says that legal writing courses are different than doctrinal courses, and adapting to formal legal writing can be difficult. Okay. I want to give you all just my quick story on this. And it's when I was in law school. I again came from business writing, so different than legal writing. And it was definitely a challenge. Like I was in office hours constantly being essentially reprimanded and softly guided, let's say, into the proper way to do things. So we're talking about this throughout today, but I want you to embrace the challenge of adjusting to legal writing. It's not something that you learn in a week. It's not something that you adapt to overnight. So understand that it is a process to learn this new system, that some get quicker than others. But again, it is a process. Now, this is what we're talking about from that question that we had, right? The reality is that you are constantly juggling assignments and responsibilities between your doctrinal courses and your legal writing course. So that's something to keep in mind, okay? And the visual that you all want to create is that it's almost as if you have a big Thanksgiving dinner that you're creating, and you're on the kitchen, right, stove, and you got all the burners on. You got the back burners and you got the front burners. And the reality is that like you're constantly shuffling the pots, right? Sometime your legal writing pot is going to be on the front burner because you have an assignment that's due that week. So that is your main focus. And your doctrinal courses are going to be on the back burner. They're just going to be simmering. You're still going to be doing some work on them, but it's not going to be taking up most of your time and attention for that time period. Then you finish your assignment for laws, right? Let's say in October 22nd, you had an assignment due. Well, as soon as that assignment is due, there's typically a little bit of a lull. So now you move laws to the back burner, and your doctrinal courses are now on the front burner, and now you're catching up on that, or maybe getting ahead just a little bit in anticipation of the next legal writing course. So this is a bit of the juggling act that you have to do, and those that find a way to manage their time and juggle the best, you definitely see that result in their grades. So understand that challenge and definitely embrace it and look forward to doing well with it. But if you just kind of like get thrown into the tornado and you're not structured, then that's where we can see issues and stress, etc. So it says there, advice: be comfortable sacrificing other assignments when needed. Plus, take advantage of the lulls and avoid procrastination. So one thing that you'll see me share later on is one of my 1L principles, which is you are assigned more work than what you can complete in law school. Okay, one more time. Make sure you guys heard that. You are assigned more work than what you can complete in law school. We'll get into more detail on that later. But again, what that means in this situation is that at times you have to sacrifice certain assignments, right? If it's not graded, if it's something straightforward that you'll get the answer to later, you have to know those spots of where to sacrifice in order to put time into things that matter the most. Okay. And then lastly, we have the analogy: keep your foot on the pedal, 75 miles per hour. So what naturally happens in a semester, everybody, is that there are lulls in the semester, and then there are peaks. The peaks tend to come around assignments, right, from your doctrinal courses, assignments from your legal writing course. And then the lulls are when you just happen to have no assignments this week or this weekend, right? It's a little bit of a calmer period for a week or a couple of weeks. The idea is to not take your foot off of the gas, right? Instead of going up and down with the lulls and the peaks, my suggestion is that you stay at a constant high speed, right? So instead of going 100 miles per hour during a deadline period and then like crashing and coming back down to earth and going 25 miles per hour to catch your breath, is to like know your assignments, know your schedule, manage your time properly, where you're just keeping a steady pace throughout the semester. Okay. So that's it. So Angel, let me come back to you. Does that answer your question, or is there still some lingering thought there?
That answers my question.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so that was a great question. As you can see here, there's a whole slide on it. This is something that, again, I want you guys to know about and be prepared for, and again, enjoy it. Somebody's going to feel bad about putting things on the back burner, but hopefully you remember this message of like, that's exactly what you need to do. You know what? This week, reading and briefing my cases, I'm going to have to do that really quickly, or maybe I might miss a case or two just because I know I have this graded assignment coming up. So I got to put this on the front burner. You have to make those sacrifices with confidence. Awesome. All right, let's go to the next slide. And now we're talking about doctrinal courses. Okay, so we're leaving our legal writing course and we're talking about the contracts, the property, the torts. To me, laws is fun, legal writing is fun, but I really like the doctrinal courses, right? This is where you're going to get to learn all those different areas of law that can relate to real life that you get to then advise your family and friends about. and things like that. But let's talk about how the structure of a doctrinal course works. And I'm going to walk you through essentially what the whole semester is going to look like. Okay. It starts with case briefing. When do you start case briefing? On day one of the semester up until the last week of class. Okay. The purpose of this is seeing the rules in action and extracting takeaways. Okay. So at the end of the day, cases are going to be actual cases that were presented to the court. And then there was opinions, decisions that were given that explain what happened, what the plaintiff's argument was, what the defendant's argument was, and what the court ultimately thought, who they decided, who they sided with. Sometimes they don't side with either side. They have their own thoughts and opinions as to the outcome, right? And you're taking in all this information to learn how this case played out. Now, what happens is when you read this entire case, there's typically like a one or two important nugget, right, that you have to take away that's like, oh, this is why we read this case, right? It's to illustrate something. Okay. And so then that takes us into outlining. Throughout the semester, as you extract these nuggets, right, slowly but consistently, those nuggets then go into an organized document called your outline. Typically, the nuggets that you're taking out are going to be rules. So by the end of the semester, you're going to have one document that has all of your rules in one place. Okay. Think of it this way too. Case briefing, you have to extract puzzle pieces out of each case. And then your outline is like where you're putting all the pieces together into a nice picture, a nice framework. Okay. Now, when does outlining start? There's a lot of different opinions on when you should start outlining. Okay. There's a lot of opinions on different things in law school. And that's another quick tip for all my 1Ls is make sure you take all the advice, but make sure you question the advice and also ask yourself which advice makes the most sense to you. But you have to empower yourself to make these decisions because there are different ways to succeed in law school. There's also some good advice and there's definitely some bad advice out there as well. And you have to be able to sift through that and see which source do you find to be the most credible. With that said, my opinion is that you should start outlining in the beginning, right? So typically you should start near or after the first month. I don't want you outlining in the very beginning because back to what I told you, you have to master the fundamentals and even that in stages. I want that first month to be you really understanding how to case brief and read and getting that timing down because most students will spend too much time case reading and briefing. So you need to get your skill down for how do I do that in a quicker time frame. I want you to focus on note taking and getting your system down to where that's ironed out. But I have students who don't appreciate those phases in the beginning. And then it's the end of the semester and they still are not organized with their case briefing and it's just all a mess. So wait till the end of the first month, and then now you'll have enough material to actually outline. That's when I suggest you do it. Now, when you have your case briefing, you have your outline being made. And again, you're making this outline all the way to the end of the semester because you're learning new information all the way to the end of the semester. At some point, it's time to incorporate practice exams. Okay. Tiana, let's just pick one class. Let's say contracts. Are you taking contracts this semester?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. So I'm curious, what is your guess, right? Let's say you have a contracts final in December. On average, how many practice exams do you think a student does before going into their final exam? Let's say for contracts.
It depends how many they are able to find, but I would say,
and let's assume unlimited because right that is a thing that professors may give you more, maybe harder to find some, but let's say you have a professor that gives you more than what you can complete. They have like a bank of 100 practice essays. Out of that, how many would your guess be that a student would on average do?
about 5.
Yeah, on average it ends up being about 2, right? And that's not a good number. Okay. So what I want to illustrate here is that practice exams are one of the most important things that you can do, but yet so many students don't end up doing them. Believe it or not, there are students who go into the final exam having not done a practice exam for the final they're going into. Imagine going to the DMV to get your driver's license and never getting behind the wheel before you went to get your license, right? That wouldn't make a lot of sense. And it applies here as well. Tiana, some of the reasons why, right, are this: students are afraid to do practice exams because they feel as though they're not ready yet, right? So we put all this pressure on ourselves that we have to be perfect and we have to be ready before we do practice exams. Got to get rid of that. Also, time management. Tiana, what do you think is going to be the task that takes up so much of your time that makes it hard to find any time to do practice essays?
Reading.
Exactly. Case briefing and reading. There's going to be so many cases to read. And you're going to feel so just up to your neck in that. It's like, I don't have any time. But again, you have to make time. So yes, you're so busy, and practice exams typically aren't in your syllabus. They're not assigned to you. So then it feels as though you have to find time, and that's where it can get difficult. Okay. So we're going to avoid all those, right? Everybody here, because I'm stressing to you the importance of practice exams. And again, as we talk later about how Legally Fit can help, I give you material in the event that your professor doesn't, on things that you can use to practice as well. But you have to get your hands on hypos. You have to get your hands on, how is this law tested? Okay. So there we go. Practice exams. That's your overview. Now, the last step is going into your final exam. Okay. So on the final exam, you'll have unique fact patterns via essay prompts, right? But it'll be like typically a 1 to 3 page fact pattern of a scenario. And then also you'll have multiple choice questions. And the idea is that you read these scenarios, and then you have to think back to your outline, think back to the rules you learned, and apply those rules to these scenarios to be able to discuss them on the essay and to then find the right answer on the multiple choice. A quick example would be, if it's a contract scenario, it would say, DeAndre agreed to sell this hydro flask to Marcus for $50. But 2 days later, DeAndre said he didn't want to do it anymore. He wanted out of the deal. Marcus said, no, I'm forcing you to stay in this contract, and now you owe me X, Y, and Z. And the question to you is, who's right and who's wrong, right? Can DeAndre get out of this contract? You'll have to apply what you have learned to give a thorough legal analysis to say what the likely outcome is, right? So that's how that ends up looking. Okay, so I want to take questions here, but I'm going to go to the next slide first, because the next slide, just like the last one, might answer a lot of the questions, and then we'll see if we have any. So here's the rundown on doctrinal courses. Here's the challenge: information overload. You are constantly processing new law and information, right? We just talked about Tiana. She said she's taking contracts. The reality is that if you are in a full-time program, you likely have 3 other doctrinal courses. Even in a part-time program, you're going to have other courses as well, and you're likely working. So yeah, there's always this feeling of, man, there's so much information and not enough time. And so with that, right, we're going to talk about this in a second. You need a system, right? You need a system for processing all this. It says reality. You're going to be responsible for approximately 800 rules in 1 semester. Okay. Don't let that scare you. One of the other things to always remember, for all those that might be feeling different levels of anxiety at different stages of this, of what's going to be expected of you, all the challenges you're going to be facing, remember that law school works on a curve, right? You don't need to necessarily master everything. You just need to do better than most, right, in the process of learning all of these things. It's all about a ranking system, not necessarily reaching a certain level. Okay, so keep that in mind. Everybody in your class is going to have to memorize 800 rules, and it's going to be a challenge for everybody. And it's a matter of who can do the best, right? And maybe the best ends up being somebody who memorized 600 rules. So then therefore that sets the standard. That's your A student, right? And then everybody else kind of falls in line up under. Okay, so keep that in mind. So what is the advice for handling this challenge? You need a smooth operating system for learning, processing, and mastering the law. Okay, this is where somebody who is organized, this is somebody who is methodical, and again has a system, is going to succeed, is going to prevail because you need it. And otherwise, it's going to be a backup, it's going to be an overload, and it's going to just turn into stress and chaos. Okay. And the analogy here is that it's like running a restaurant. New law is like new orders. So to give you the quick right comparison, I think at this stage, right, all of us has probably been to a restaurant that is poorly ran. Right. You go in, the wait time is so long because they're not organized. The food is not coming out fast, right? The orders are getting messed up. And typically that's because there's something as an issue with their system, how they're running their restaurant. They don't have enough waiters. They don't have enough servers. They don't have enough chefs. Maybe they don't have a good streamline of communication between the waitresses and the chefs, right? There's can be so many different things, but if that system is not tight, you're going to see chaos on the customer side of things compared to a restaurant that's a well-oiled machine, right? The hostess all the way to the busboys with the chefs, the everybody's on the same page, and it just feels like a great experience. That is what you're aiming for. Okay. So there we go. It's even built into the slide. Questions. Any questions on doctrinal courses? Okay, and I'll go ahead and give it a second too for hands to raise. And if not, I'll call on a few people, make sure there's no questions out there not getting asked. All right, so let me go to Brittany Rounds. Brittany, we just talked about all the stuff regarding doctrinal courses. What are we thinking? Do we have any questions? And if no questions, just kind of give me some feedback. What are you feeling as you hear all of this information? Okay, we might not have Brittany with us, so let's go to Jessica. Jessica Johnson, you there? Okay. Hopefully you guys can unmute and participate. All right, let's go ahead and try one more. And let's go with Catherine Martinez. And if you guys need me to repeat the question, I can as well. Okay, Zoom user, we have a hand raised. I can't call you by name.
I'm sorry, I didn't log in with the right name, but it's not really a question, but I like just from hearing some of the information, I'm starting to feel a little bit of that anxiety right now, like with how you were talking about making sure to stay organized, staying like, like how you shouldn't procrastinate. And it's like one of my biggest things is that I do procrastinate a lot.
Mm-hmm. So
But yeah.
yeah, I'm happy. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure that's, again, a feeling that a lot of people are feeling for different reasons, whether they procrastinate or just it feels like it's a lot. But, the thing is that this is going to be a challenge. And what was your name so I can address you?
Luvada.
Say it again.
Luvada.
Duvada?
Luvada, Louvada.
There we go, Luvada. So Luvada, the idea is that like there's no way to take out some bit of the nerves, right? It'd be as if right now we got to Mount Everest and I'm your guide and I'm telling you, hey, we're going to get to the top. But guess what? It's going to be a challenge. There's going to be times where you're out of breath. There's going to be times when you're tired. These are the common pitfalls that students make. And there are a lot of students who make mistakes and have pitfalls, but I'm giving you all the information now and the clarity now to avoid that. And the next thing you have to do is essentially one foot in front of the other, right? Take one step and next thing you know, you're at the top, but you can't think, right? You can see the mountain, you can see the journey. And after you get a picture of it, you get all these tips, it comes down to day-to-day execution. So yeah, with that, I don't want to necessarily even aim to say anything now that'll completely get rid of the anxiety because you can't, right? It's this nervousness of this, again, this journey that you're about to embark on. But what I can tell you is that you can minimize it by realizing, all right, I'm getting all of this guidance, I'm getting all of these tools. And then literally it just comes down to step by step, day by day execution. Okay. And I can definitely advise you that procrastination is definitely going to be something that you're going to want to work on in this space. And I think law school is a great opportunity for all of us to figure out what are the intangibles that I want to improve in this professional space. Is it my procrastination? Is it my tardiness? Do I want to improve my public speaking? Right? Do I want to improve my confidence, in my intelligence, right? Like, I think all of us have something that's an intangible that we can work on. And it's good to keep those in mind and use this as an opportunity to improve in those arenas. So thank you for sharing that again. And so, yeah, embrace the little bit of anxiety, but try to manage it and realize that the key is just taking step-by-step action.
Thanks. I like that. I like the one step in front of the other. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And let's go to Tiana.
I have a quick question. Are outlines minus the facts that you would find in a case brief and kind of only focus on the rules? I'm still trying to grasp like the core differences.
Yes, exactly. So as with the question that we had on Iraq, we also on our YouTube channel have a very, very detailed video on like explaining Iraq, because yes, it's something you're going to hear for so long, but it's going to be like, what exactly is it and how does it work? So I gave you the quick answer, and then you can get more detail in the video. And the quick answer is that yes, your outline, you want it to be very stripped down to the rules. And then maybe you can also have some examples in there as well. But you want something that's clean of all of the facts and all of the detail, because otherwise you won't be able to see, right, this puzzle if you have all these extras connected to it. So yes, you're essentially extracting rules. If you want to add a little bit more, typically it can be like very quick examples just to refresh you on like how this rule can come into play. But those are, again, even small extras to include. But yes, at its core, it's rules, and you want to extract the facts. Awesome. All right, so let's go with one other question. And then also, too, last thing I'll say on that too, Tiana, is that I appreciate the question and it's natural. Try not to focus too much on outlining at this phase. Again, just for my advice, it's that I want you to, in this first month, really get all of the other basics of what you have to do, right? I'm going to be showing you guys how we can teach you how to note take properly, understand IRAC, and then also get your case briefing and reading down. So those are some things over the first 3 weeks that I really want you to focus on first, and then you'll be ready for outlining. So I would even resist the urge to try to figure it out in detail right now, and give it about 2 to 3 weeks. And then it's like, okay, now I'm ready to outline because I've gotten all these other things down. Sound good?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And then last question in this stage, Janelle.
Hi, attorney. Did you say you're going to go further down into details about the continuance so I can wait and ask my question then? Or is this it?
Regarding doctrinal courses, but yeah, there's definitely still more that we're going to go
No,
into.
further down about law school in general, the studying and stuff.
Yeah. So I think we're going to
Okay.
we're going to get into more. And then if the question's not answered, then let me know.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. So let's now get into the attack plan. So as I told you, just like a restaurant, as a 1L, as a student, as a 2L, 3L, you're going to need a good system for getting through. Okay. Now, this is just literally what I consider an attack plan, no matter what resources you're using to supplement. We'll get to that in a second. But this is literally a system to get through a semester and all the law that you have to learn. So as you see here in the middle of our circle in our diagram, you have a topic of law. Right. So let's say you are in contracts, and the first topic you are learning is offer. You're learning what an offer is. For every topic of law, you have to learn that topic, you have to outline that topic, and then you have to master it as well. So when you think of it in these 3 steps and you hit all 3 each time for every topic, that's how you're going to set yourself up for success. Let's talk about what each one is. So learning a topic is you being introduced to it. And remember, give yourself grace. You should not be expecting that you're going to master and completely understand something when you are first being introduced to it, right? It's a very, very straightforward principle, right? When you're learning something for the first time, you're not expected to be a master. But for some reason, 1Ls and us law students, we're such perfectionists, and we're in this pressure environment of doing well in law school that we put these expectations that we're just going to master everything immediately. So make sure you embrace, right, that sometimes certain topics are going to be a little bit more difficult to learn initially. But all that to say, you are going to be learning through reading and briefing and then going to class, right? And then extracting the key takeaways. You'll learn this in my case briefing and reading video that goes into detail, but something that I want to give you as a little nugget now is that do not obsess over case briefing and reading for the purpose of being perfect in class in the event that you're called on. Right? For so many students, this is like the number one source of stress and anxiety. It's just like getting called on in class and like not sounding completely correct. And the reality is that it's very rare for a student to be 100% accurate when called on in class. The other issue is that not only does it cause so much stress and anxiety, it ends up in you spending more time than what you should reading and briefing, then taking away time from outlining and practice essays. So because a student is nervous of getting called on, they'll spend 4 hours trying to read and brief a case to make sure they have every little detail, to then still get to class and still probably be off a little bit on what they should have said in that answer. So what I want to do hopefully for you all is take off a little bit of that pressure. Remember, you're paying to go to school, or you've earned a scholarship to learn, to be taught by your professor. So the reality is that as you're learning, you're not going to always have it down pat. You're not going to always have 100% clarity. But the idea is that by the end of class, you should. So anything that you were mistaken on or not correct on, the idea is that by the end of class, you should have the clarity that you need. So don't focus so much on the pre-class, right? Don't obsess over it when you know at the end you're going to get from class what the key takeaways are. All right, so that's learning. That's how you learn a topic, right? Class and reading cases. After you learn it, right, you're going to be moving on to a new subject, but then now you're going to have to outline that subject that you just finished learning, right? Or I should say topic. So now you're going to have to outline offer. And then this is where you need to create your own professor-tailored outline. The specificity in those words are there for intention. Professor-tailored outline. You may get an outline from another, student in your class at your school. You may get an outline online, right? You may get an outline from Legally Fit. These are great resources in that you don't want to recreate their will. You don't want to start from scratch and outlining because there's not necessarily a need to. So you want to use these as aids and as inspiration. But at the end of the day, you have to make your own. For those that try to get cheeky and cut corners and just simply rely on a pre-made outline, do not typically do well, because so much of the benefit of an outline is the process of making it and what you have to learn in the steps of doing so. Okay, so that's creating your own outline for your professor. And then lastly, you need to master a topic. So even after you outline it, doesn't mean you're ready for the final exam on that. You could have gone to class on offer. You could have outlined it. I have all my rules. But if you don't get comfortable with how offer is tested, you don't look to see if there are some other or what are the scenarios, the typical patterns and how this is tested. You don't go to office hours, or you don't do anything to make sure you're not missing anything, right? To make sure your outline is complete and accurate. You have to do all of these things to master that section to then be ready, right? And so this is the step that like many don't do. In theory, right? It's almost like as you go from learning to outlining to mastering, as you move to each step is where the drop off occurs, right? So like 100% of the students, or let's say 90% of the students are going to learn all the topics. They're going to read and go to class, read and go to class. Well, then only about 70% are going to actually outline, or 60% are going to outline. And then it's a huge drop off where only maybe 25% actually take the steps to master. Okay, you want to make sure you're part of that 25% that goes through this entire cycle in order to prepare for your final exams. Okay. So here's just a nice little visual so you can see this in action. So week 1, right? Let's say you learn offer. Then over the weekend, you outline offer. Okay. Now, what happens is in week 2, you're going to be now in contracts learning a new topic because it doesn't stop. So after you learn your first concept, your first topic, understand that in one given class, you'll be juggling at least 2 topics. You'll be taking the steps to master offer, doing hypos, doing practice, while in class, you'll be learning acceptance, right? And Tiana, let me ask you, in a week like in a week like week 2, where you're juggling these 2 things, which one do you think is going to be more important? Mastering offer or learning acceptance?
Acceptance.
It's actually going to be mastering offer, right? So mastering offer, because this is the phase, again, that really nobody does, right? This is the fact that only 25% do. And it's that mindset right there of why only 25% do it. Because it's like, oh, it's acceptance. It's a new week. I got to read and brief. I got to do this. And that is prioritized. That takes all your time and then leaves little time for the mastering. So we want to prioritize mastering the previous topic. And the reason why you can comfortably do so is because you'll have still all this time with acceptance. You'll go to class, you'll get the takeaways, you'll still have time at some point to outline it, right? And then you'll then have your time to master it. So again, it's not a complete distribution of your time towards mastering offer versus learn, but we do want to prioritize it, okay? So that is an example of how this will work. And then again, in week 3, you see, you're just continuing the process of juggling these 2. All right, I see we have some questions. Luvada?
So how do you do that? How, because you said it's like a smaller portion of time that's going to mastering rather than learning a substance. So how do you juggle that?
How do you juggle that? So let's go back to this, right? Mastering, right? So if it's week 2, right? Mastering is solidifying a strong understanding, getting comfortable with popular test scenarios, visiting office hours, and tweaking your outlines. So in week 2, when you're mastering offer and you're learning acceptance, nothing in your class syllabus is going to carve out time for you to be mastering offer. What you're going to have in your syllabus is read and brief this case for acceptance. So what you're going to have to do is give yourself a cap on how much time you're going to spend reading and briefing. So that way you can allocate time towards mastering. So that is where essentially you find time, is putting a cap on how much time you spend reading and briefing so you can create time for those other steps. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. And again, everybody, this whole, like, I wish law school was structured differently. I wish a syllabus gave you time and instructed you time to do all these necessary components, but that's not how it works. It only assigns certain tasks, and there's other tasks that are crucial, that are paramount, but they're not assigned to you. There's not time created for you to do those things. So again, realize this and realize that's part of the game. As part of, like, who are the students that realize this and find the time and make the adjustments in order to be successful. All right. Any other questions on this system? Angel.
So what I'm hearing is that with this schedule, we just basically focus on mastering what we're learning ahead of time so that when we get to the finals, we're not learning anything anymore. We're just touching up on that mastery and then going into those practice and hypos and stuff.
Exactly. There we go,
Okay.
Angel. That's exactly the idea. Because, Angel, if you are not, as we're looking at this diagram still, if you're not mastering offer in week 2, you're not mastering acceptance in week 3, right? And even for those then are not outlining, it's even worse. But when you don't do those steps, what happens is that when you get to the end of November and December, Angel, you are just like playing catch up on all of this law and you're trying to master it, and it's just going to feel chaotic. The goal, right, And you won't necessarily always do it with 100%, but if you get to at least 80 or 90 to where you're in the end of November and December, and it's like, I don't remember offer right now, but I know that 2, 3 months ago, I completely and thoroughly organized it in my outline. I did some hypos, like it's there, and all I have to do is refresh on it. If you can do that for 80% of the topics or more, now you're in a good position to just, yes, refresh and do practice essays. But if you don't, now you're almost starting over from the beginning. And again, that's just when now we're in a bad spot. Perfect. So, Andrew, I want to have a follow-up question and then also give an opportunity for one other student if they have something that they want to share. So, Angel, like, this is really good that you're seeing that. I'm also curious, how are you feeling about this, right? I'm kind of telling you some of these challenges that seem overwhelming, but the reality is just by actually receiving this, it should kind of open it up, and the enlightenment should also maybe give some comfort. But tell me, what is kind of the mental state right now as you're receiving all of this now new information?
I would say that the mental state is good. Like before I learned about having the schedule of week by week, I was very anxious about, having all the readings and cases and to learn all of that for, maybe one exam at the end of the semester. But with this, I feel like I can take away some of that anxiety and just break it down like week by week and, not really think, just do and just, trust the process. So.
Exactly. There we go. Look, right on top of the board, trust the process. Yeah. And, to that point, Angel, like, I think what's coming across very clear to you all, and I hope everybody's getting this, is that law school doesn't allow and doesn't reward, unfortunately, a student who just simply comes in and does everything that's in their syllabus, right? Like, you actually have to go above and beyond in a sense of navigating throughout the semester, of making time to do these other things. And the reality is that you'll be told those things, right? Like, you've already heard outlining from different places that you have to outline, but it's not in your syllabus to actually do that. You've heard practice exams, but it's not in your syllabus. So one great thing that I think we're all going to take away from this today is that, okay, I have to be in charge of my schedule. I have to be in charge of my time. I have to make sacrifices, right? All these different things. Awesome. Anybody else want to give their feelings before we move now to the next component? Yeah, Tanya.
Hi, happy Saturday. Yes, I want to make sure I understand this, so please forgive me. So
No worries.
when you get the offer, then you outline that for class. That outline would include the law that would apply to that offer. And then when you say learn acceptance, could you explain that some more?
Yeah, there might be multiple questions. So you want to know kind of what does outlining offer look like? And then you're also asking then what does learn acceptance look like?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll show you an example really quickly. I'll show everybody an example of a legally fit outline, all right, for contracts. And you can see then the rules for offer to see what it ends up looking like. So let's go to material and outlines, contracts. Okay, now, Tanya, this is going to be a very, very pretty outline. Don't anticipate that you're going to have the time to make it look as good as this one, but the idea is that you should have the same type of content in there. And then again, right, as we'll talk about, these are available to students to use for inspiration and as a starting point. But this is an outline. We have a nice little table of contents in the beginning to find your sections. But let's find offer, right? It's information. And there we go, offer. So right now, what I have here is an intro, right? Just to kind of ground myself of like what an offer is. Contract formation begins with a valid offer. The reality is that an offer is not valid every time a party attempts to make one. So that's telling me I need to assess whether the offer is valid or not. So I'm educating myself and reminding myself in the future when I come back to this, like what this section is all about. These are nice little tidbits to put into an outline. Now, everybody, right? You now have a general rule for how to create an offer. And then there's 3 elements. You can consider each element its own rule. Okay. Try not to read it right now and read the rule and try to understand it, because I'm just trying to illustrate the concept. The idea, Tanya, is that essentially each of these rules would have come from its own case, right? And that's again kind of the outdated and just kind of like slow way of learning law and how it works in a law school, is that like you read a 10-page case just to get this rule to put in your outline. Then you read your next 5-page case to get this rule to put in your outline, so on and so forth. And then by the end of it, you have all of them. And now you've got the pieces to the puzzle. And now I have my elements for an offer. Okay. So first off, does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It's like you're building those blocks so that I can validate my offer.
Exactly. Perfect. So you're
Okay.
building all the steps so you can understand what it means exactly to validate an offer. Now you have finished outlining offer. Okay. And I don't know how, and people, this is the second time somebody's done it. I think Zoom allows like users to draw. So somebody's accidentally drawn on there. So feel free to erase if you can. But the idea is that after you finish outlining this, you need to master this as well, right? So just because you have these elements, Tanya, I could give you a hypo where I say, DeAndre says, hey, I'm thinking about selling this hydro flask to you for $50. Would you want to buy it? What's your gut telling you, Tanya? Is that an offer?
It sounds good, but I need more validation.
Yeah. Yeah. So there, because I said I'm thinking about selling you that, you're going to learn that that violates element number 1, that there was no manifestation of intent. So again, like that's what is the mastering, where you're going through hypos to see how it is in action. And then you're remembering those examples and you're storing those. So when you see similar examples, you can answer them quickly. So that is all what the mastering looks like. And then here, let me show you again something that you'll use. I have the torts one up already by chance, but actually just bring up the contracts one so you could see it by reference. Contracts, hypos. Okay, so then you would go to something and do hypos. Let me go find the offer hypos. So look, formation 101, do some hypos. DeAndre is the private tutor and asks Carly, she'd like to sign for his bar prep. Is a contract formed? Offer, here's a hypo on offer. Here's a hypo on requirement. So you do these hypos so you can have examples to see it. That is part of the mastering process. That's putting it in action, right? It's one thing, Tanya, to essentially read a recipe on how to cook salmon. It's one thing to watch a YouTube video on how to cook salmon. It's a whole nother thing to actually get into making the salmon and perfecting it. That's the mastering phase. So that's what you do. Let me go back now to the presentation. That's what you're doing during the mastering. And then while you're mastering, you're learning the next topic, which is, again, as we saw on the other side, learning acceptance is simply reading and briefing the assigned cases and going to class to see what the professor is telling you are the next important takeaways. Is that clear?
Yes, that is very helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Good. So once you get into that flow, everybody, and get to that system, it is tough to juggle, but it becomes easier. And like, all right. And again, let me stop stressing the learning so much, right? Like, let me let class do its job of telling me what the takeaway is. Let me still prepare, right? I'm not going to go into class naive and not having attempted to read and brief, but let me not obsess over that. Let me make sure I obsess over class. At the end of class, I need to know what the key takeaways were. But let me make sure I'm allocating time towards mastering what I'm dealing with, what I just finished learning. So there we go. Awesome stuff, everybody. All right.
Hey,
So
DeAndre,
now,
before you go on, Angel has a question expanding upon that in the chat.
okay. Let me go down and read it. And Jill says, so is the outline more about the rules and the explanation of the rule, whereas the case brief is separate and for your own understanding of the rule? Let's break it up. Is the outline more about the rules and the explanation of the rule? Yes. Whereas your case is about the case and what the key takeaway was. Let me try to think of an example with the case brief and how it works.
Well, can I ask this? Um, so you get the case, you read the assigned reading with the case, and you extract the rule from that case.
Correct.
You brief the case and whatnot, and then you get that rule, you add it to your outline. But let's say like you have I guess a hypo you're doing later on
Yes.
for the exam, you would identify from that hypo the rule, explain the rule, and then you could possibly go back to a similar case and say, oh, in this case, this happened, and this is the rule. Is that what it is?
That's a very, very accurate and awesome way to think about how
Okay.
it all works. But now hear this though, which is actually interesting. Professors vary on this, Angel, everybody, on how much the fact patterns they use on the day of the exam resemble any of the cases. So that's again even more so why case briefing and reading can sometimes be like, man, what really is the value? Because one, there's some professors that actually want you to cite to cases, but it's very rare. So a lot of times, and Angel, the fact pattern is so unique that it's actually not like any of the other cases. You're just using the rules that you extracted from them. And if you have a professor that gives you a lot of practice exams, it's more so like what you're seeing on the day of the exam resembles one of the fact patterns that you saw in your practice exams. But all that to say, there is variance there. Professors can draft a fact pattern for that exam that resembles a practice essay that they've assigned before. It can resemble a case that they've done. And yes, the idea hopefully is that you have stored all of those examples to know which is the best to kind of use to guide you through this now current problem. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Exactly. You almost want to think of like every case that you read and every practice exam as you do, it's almost like, you going through an escape room, right? You going through like a puzzle. And after you solve that puzzle, you kind of want to store it. So if you see that puzzle again or something similar, you're ready for it and you're not doing it from the scratch again. But I would not obsess again over memorizing every case. And Jill, you're going to read for each class like so many cases, but what you can do is that typically professors, like if they plan on referencing that case, they'll make a big deal about it, right? Like they'll be like, this is like the most important case for offer, right? So it's just like, all right, let me like be a little bit more detailed with my notes and make sure I really get this scenario, right? But you're going to read so many cases, there's going to be no way to, in theory, remember all of those fact patterns. Perfect.
Okay.
And here's the last thing that I'll share on this tip or on this segment. Everybody, this is why it's so important to study in a distraction-free, like high quality manner, right? Like you want to, because you don't necessarily have time to sit and memorize everything all the time, you have to study in a way that you're like actually taking in the information and sitting with it. So if you're reading a case and you got the game on in the background, right? Basketball game's on, football season starting back up. You got, a reality TV show on in the background. I'm sure it's another Housewives getting started soon. If you have all those things going on that other information is in your brain as you're taking in this information, it's not going to stick. So you want to be present in the work that you do. You want to really buy into this. I'm a law student. I'm learning all of this. And the more you resonate with it, the more it then is something that you can recall and lean on later. So high quality, high value studying is super important and not having distractions. Okay, let's go ahead and progress. Any other questions? Let's save them to the end. We're almost through all this material. We're now going to get into what does it mean to be successful in law school? What does it takes? And then how Legally Fit can help. So as you see here in this slide, law school success comes down to mastering the law and mastering the skills. I want you all to remember that. I want you to write it down right now, right? Ideally, you have some Post-it notes next to you. If not, for time purposes, just type it on your computer in a Word document, that mastering the law plus mastering the skills. Like those are the two things that if you sit simplify all of this of what it comes down to. Now, of course, that's a simplified version of it. As you see here with this Venn diagram, there's a list of different laws that you have to master and skills. So that's where the complexity comes in. So master the law, right? These are all the subjects you have to learn, but good for you. You're not going to get all of these in one semester, right? Typically, you'll have 3 to 4 of these at a time. Okay. Mastering the law, by the way, is not something that everybody does, but that is something that is at the forefront of essentially every law student's mind, right? They're just consumed with the law, learning the law, learning the law. A lot of students don't put in the time and effort to master the skills. Make sure that's not you. You need to be good and efficient at outlining. You need to have good time management. You need to know how to read in brief cases efficiently and not how to spend too much time. You need to know how to note take efficiently. Like all of these things matter, right? Again, I love analogies. Think to a restaurant, right? Think to a Michelin star restaurant, right? Tanya, have you ever seen, on Netflix, any documentary, like the behind the scenes of a Michelin star restaurant?
No, I haven't.
All right. So let me give you a little bit of like the idea here, Tanya. The Michelin star, right, restaurant is rated as like a top restaurant in the world. Very hard group to be a part of a Michelin star restaurant. And what you see about these restaurants is that, right, they're cooking a lot of the same food for the most part, but it's their crazy like attention to detail, right? Like when they're going and picking their fruit, they're not doing that in a rushed manner. They're picking out the best fruit to then use for their dishes or the best produce, right? When it comes time to plating, they're not rushing through that. They're taking their time with the plating and making sure everything is positioned nicely. So it's a lot of this attention to detail at all phases that allows for them to reach this pinnacle of being a Michelin star restaurant. Right. So to be an A student, it takes a student who appreciates all the phases. If you're just worried about the salmon and if it's cooked at 25 degrees, right, or however many degrees, not 25, or whatever it's supposed to be cooked at, again, you're going to be missing all the other components of this high level success, right? Or even then just normal success, right? Just to even be a B student, you still need to do a lot of these things. So hopefully everybody can appreciate that. And again, it requires both. You still have to master the law, but the skills component is what we sometimes overlook.
I've seen that on those mighty cruise ships when they plate those plates and they just go pick out the freshest fruit, the freshest fish, seafood, and they're real picky, but everything on the plate matters. So, okay, I get it.
Yes, exactly. As opposed to just like, all right, let's just slap something together and put it out. Maybe it's good, but it's just like, we're not going to be a B or an A, right? You go to a, local hole in the wall spot, you get the sloppy burrito and the juice is dripping down your arm. And oh man, today usually the fries are hot. Today the fries were cold. It's inconsistent, right? You have to have consistency, all those kind of things. All right. So let's jump into how Legally Fit can help. So first off, the 1L Club, right? Something that we're super proud and happy to offer, that we have something that is free for all of you guys to continue getting Legally Fit resources. All right. So everybody, you should have already received or seen the information on how to sign up. If not, you'll get an email as to how to sign up. You can go to the website now and sign up if you wanted to. The 1L Club is going to assist you with this skill development. Okay. It says members of the 1L Club receive Legally Fit's Roadmap to Success, the weekly skill building workshop video, the weekly handout and reinforcement content, and then you get some exclusive discounts as well. Really quickly, let me go back to Tanya. Tanya, are there a lot of skills that you have to learn throughout your first semester?
One is going to be time management and learning how to really write in a legally format, because I'm a technical writer. So I'm going to have to learn that legal. And I've heard that legal writing is one of the toughest courses in law school.
And let me pause you too, Tanya. My question is just simply, are there a lot of skills that we have to develop? So yeah, is there a lot or a little as far as the skills that we have to develop in our first year?
I would probably say that develop, and some we have to adapt, because some of the skills we might already have and we might have to just change them a little. But yeah, some we have to learn as well. So probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that, like, whether it's however many that again, your starting point is, because of so many skills that are out there that you have to get on a certain level, it's a lot of skills, right? There's a lot that we have to do. And typically what that results in, Tanya, is a bit of chaotic, right? A bit of overwhelmed of all the things to do. And typically, law school, certain advisors, they'll try to give you all of it at once or too much at one time. So to fix that problem with the 1L Club, what I've done is taken that roadmap to success that I showed you earlier about how you take each step. First, it's preparing, then it's mastering the fundamentals, then it's mastering test taking skills. Even in each of those steps, there are steps within that, and there's an order of operation. And when I have determined it's the best time for a student to be ready to receive that. But instead of getting all of it at once, I piece it out week by week. So that way you don't have to get overwhelmed and consumed with all the skills all at once. And then it's up to you to know when to go back to, certain information that was important. So each week there's a theme of the week. So for example, the first week is going to be, what is IRAC? Right. And that's the focus this week. Right. All I need to focus on is IRAC. The next week is going to be note taking. All right. This is where I'm going to improve my note taking this week. The next week is case briefing and reading. All right. Now I'm going to really get some efficiency there. So again, instead of trying to do all three of those in 1 week, you're breaking it up. And again, it's a way that it builds on top of each other. So that's the 1L Club. It's free. So it's absolutely no reason why you guys should not sign up. It'll all be via email, and I'll assign you guys videos, the ones that I've been referencing that are on our YouTube channel. But again, instead of having to navigate that on your own and even decide when to watch those videos, I tell you what video to watch at what time. Each video ranges from like 20 to like 30 minutes or so. And again, bite-sized information to keep you on track. Okay. And Jill, to start off with you, any questions about the 1L Club?
I don't have any questions. I think I'm actually already signed up. I think when I signed up for this, I clicked that link first. So I think I'm signed up.
Perfect. Sounds good. Anybody else? Any questions on the 1L Club? Any thoughts before we keep it moving? Okay, so let's keep going. So then now, right, let's talk about the law. Because as I mentioned, success is the skills and the law. The 1L Club is for your skills. Then we have our materials for helping you understand the law. And this is where Legally Fit is really going to make the difference in your success, because this is, again, where you need those systems and those resources to process all that law that you're going to be receiving. Okay, so let's start off with Master the Semester. Master the Semester costs $999. Okay, so basically $1,000. And now with this, you get a complete set of supplemental materials for 4 doctrinal subjects. So you get to say, hey, all right, I need contracts, I need property, I need torts, whatever your load is, you get the materials for that class. Now, for each of those classes, you'll get a combination of lecture videos, outlines, hypos, and explanations, hypos and explanations. And then you also get charts and diagrams. Okay, so we kind of talked about offer today. So let me kind of show you an example really quickly on how that would look. You would have a lecture video for offer, right? Your professor going through the slow process of going through one case at a time, it can be hard to kind of see initially, what's the big picture here? Where am I going with this, right? When you're getting each one puzzle piece at a time. In my lecture video, I give you the entire puzzle at the beginning so you can see, oh, okay, this is what this is. Now, it makes it easier to sit through class and sit through the pieced out method of law school of taking out one piece at a time. So it gives you that clarity before the confusion can set in. Then you have the outlines that are also assisting with that, but then also giving you a starting point for your own outline. All of my outlines are using bar ready rules. So 1, you'll be simultaneously preparing yourself for the bar. And 2, if your professor also teaches according to the bar, then this outline is basically a slap and apply to your professor. Now, one thing that you have to learn is that, again, we talked about the creativity of professors. Some will focus on different rules, right? Offer is not the same everywhere. Some states may have different rules, and different places will have different ways to interpret what the elements of an offer are. So realize that, everybody, for most classes, there's just no like, trusted number one, this is the only source of rules. So what that creates is there's variance in rules. And you always want to look out to see if your professor then does have variance. But even if, right, like you had two people, let's say you had Tanya at Howard Law School and you had Luvada at Howard Law School, but they had separate contract professors, their rules for contracts, even at the same school, can look different. So that's why you always want to make sure you're tailoring everything to your professor. But remember, even if they change the elements in the rules, it still has to be the same principle. An offer is still the first step of creating a contract. It still is going to have the same points, just typically wording and things like that are different. And then you have hypos and explanations. So as I mentioned, you have to master, you have to get practice. And sometimes your professor doesn't give you practice. So now you have a guaranteed source for practice questions. And even if your professor does give you practice, our hypos and explanations are such a great resource to study from, because what I have done is taken all of the heavily tested patterns for how they like to test the law, but I give them to you in relatable examples, right? Just like today, as I'm giving you the Michelin star analogy, right? And then Tanya's coming in with like, okay, that makes sense. I could think to the cruise and connect the dots here on what you're saying. I'll give you a contract offer hypo that's dealing with pop culture, that's dealing with, Miley Cyrus, right? Or Jay-Z. And all of a sudden we can have a little bit more fun with the law and connect with it. So then when we see a more traditional example, it's like, okay, I've seen something like this before. And then lastly, charts and diagrams. This is where we bring the law to life in a visual way. So for all the visual learners that like to see the law, right, and see material in diagrams and flow charts, we give you those and give you inspiration for creating your own. So those are all the materials you get, and you get those all for 4 subjects. And from there, it's just like you can go less and less if you wanted to maybe not get as much or spend as much. So if you wanted, let's say, all of that, but instead of for 4 subjects, you just wanted it for 1 or 2, you can do a master the subject where you get all of those things for a particular subject that you choose. So it'll be $295 per subject. So same thing as master the semester, you're just not getting the bundle deal, right? Master the semester, you get 4 for 100, where master the subject is 300 a piece. If you were to add all those up, that'd be more around the lines of 1,200. So you get a discount if you get 4, whereas the master the semester, the subject just breaks it up. And then lastly, you have Get Fit kits. And this is then the cheapest option, right? This one is not the most used, but we offer it for those that are just like, hey, I don't even want materials and things for an entire subject. There's just this one topic I need some assistance with. You have Get Fit kits that you can use as well. Okay, so those are the main offerings. Lastly, we have now allowed students to buy just our outlines, which are called the blueprints, and just the hypos, right? So you can a la carte that out of the master the subject and the master the semester. But again, if you get those, these are all included. Both of these plus more are included in those other offerings. Okay, really quickly, run down the list here of the benefits. So our supplements are designed to help you complete all of your law school tasks faster and with more clarity and confidence. So first, it's going to save you time. Again, you're going to be able to read and brief your cases faster. You're going to avoid common issues and mistakes. And it gives you almost a chat GPT-like function for learning the law, where it's like, I can go straight to what I need, get this downloaded information. It summarizes it for me. Okay, now I get it. Okay, which is now helping you master the law, helps you see the big picture, get exposure to popular test patterns, and gives you essentially all the materials to do what I told you you absolutely have to do, right? So again, you'll have to find either resources given to you by your professor or outside resources to do all the things necessary, right? To outline and make sure you have something to cross-reference it with. You have to do practice tests, and you have to have resources to practice with, etc. And then lastly, and this one was actually my favorite, it increases confidence, right? So for all those that, again, that are worried about going into class, Imagine, like if your parent was the professor, so you get to at home talk about what the next class is going to be or what the law is going to be. So you get to come to class and just be like, oh, yeah, I know where we're going. That's exactly what you get when you are using these materials, is that before going to class on offer, I've already watched this video, I already seen an outline. It may be a little bit different or maybe the exact same, but I know what this is. I know what we're talking about. And so now I don't mind raising my hand and giving this a shot. So really good feeling to throughout the semester going to class with confidence and a readiness, as opposed to for the entire semester, every class dreading going into class, feeling a little nervous, feeling scared, feeling not sure of yourself. So I think this is a really awesome benefit, is to increase that confidence. And it just makes law school more fun and less stressful. Okay, so those are the benefits. All right, and I'm just going to quickly show you how that attack plan plus these supplements then ends up working. So basically, when you learn a topic, now you can use the Legally Fit lecture videos to be your introduction before you read in brief cases. So again, you can do so faster. Then when it comes to outlining, you now have this Legally Fit as a model and a guide for creating your own, again, saving you time. And then when it comes to the mastering, as we see in blue, you have guaranteed great resources for teaching you the law. And remember, regardless of whether your professor is bar focused or not, you at least be training yourself in bar ready rules that is preparing you for being a first time passer when you get to then taking the bar. But a lot of professors out there do focus on bar ready rules. So you'll find that there's a complete cohesion with what we have and what you're learning. Okay. I don't think we necessarily need to do this one. This is like another diagram, but we got the other one so well. But this is just another visual of like what resource to use. We'll give you this if you purchase any of them. So again, you can see how to implement these resources into your daily studying, into your weekly studying. But that's all this is a visual for what resource to use at which phase. Okay. So last round of questions. We're wrapping up here now. Any questions on the Master the Subject materials? Yeah, Janelle.
Yeah, I have a question about managing if you're doing a clinic with the class, but also another doctrinal class and the testing, how to go about setting up my schedule for studying and doing practice exams, such as I'm basically doing Constitution Law 2 and
So Janelle, let's save that for the end of class, because that sounds like a specific, of
okay.
How do I balance that? So I'll stick around a little bit more at the end.
Okay.
So if we can work through that. Perfect. Any questions on the Legally Fit materials or anything like that? Let me see who we have and get some feedback from participants. All right. So let me go to Tiana, back to Tiana. So Tiana, was all that clear, right? On all the offerings, any thoughts?
Yes, it was clear. So no questions.
Good. Awesome. Any thoughts? Like, have you already looked into supplements? What are your, was it something that you were already prepared for, something that you're interested in? Or is it like, where's your head at regarding, I don't know how much, because sometimes students will come into law school and that's all they've been hearing about this supplement, that supplement. So this could be a conversation too, just around supplements in general. If you have any questions, I can be of service as well.
Yeah, so I've heard a lot throughout orientation, different supplement companies and like names being thrown out. So I kind of became more acclimated to like what exists out there. I'm trying to see, like, I think they're helpful in being able to like provide me insight into like material as I'm going through it, to like as it is supplement like my learning. I'm just trying to see like how do I partner it with like what I am doing? Like how do I
Yes.
like not
And
become
that's
so reliant on it, you know?
Exactly. And that's the key, right? We're like, how do you use an aid in a way that you don't overuse it to your detriment? But I think it's pretty straightforward to do. And that's where you're right. With our materials, I'm giving you exactly how to incorporate it and what to use it for. So that way there's like instruction with it to avoid just that. But I definitely hear that concern, and that is one, right? When a student gets this supplement and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to use this now. And then sometimes they overuse it and don't do enough of the work themselves. So yeah, great question, great thought. And yes, this is definitely something to either use with legally fit materials or to just again model if you're trying to bring in anything that it stays with that same approach of learn, outline, and master. And so you can use, right, there's, for example, like, have you heard of Quimby?
Yes, I've heard that one before.
So Quimby is a resource that's like really good, but just on the learning side, right? Like Quimby's main function is that it gives you synopsis of the cases that you have to read. So it's not so much holistic that it's going to necessarily be very effective at outlining and mastering. So you can have that one there. Then there's like, oh, you could do this. So like there's a lot of different things out there that can kind of piecemeal the resources that are good for each phase. Whereas what we aim to provide is something holistic that's going to help you in all three phases. But just remember, no matter what, don't lose the structure of every topic of law. I go through these three phases. And then if anything, I look for supplements that assist in these different arenas. So does that help a little bit?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Perfect. So yeah, everybody, don't get overwhelmed by supplements. And again, it's already like, how do I have the time? But again, it's like you stick to the same structure that I gave you, learn, outline, master, and then you find the use of supplements in the various sections to assist those. So that's how that works. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to leave you guys with now 3 principles. We're actually at the end of this. Thank you to all of those that stayed to the very end. We're going to reward you all with a quick game where somebody here is going to get a free master the subject. So we're going to play a game and give out a free master the subject. But first, I want to give you my legally fit 1L principles, right? At the end of this, take a screenshot, save it. These are things that you should have written down somewhere on a board that you see every day to remind you of what it takes to be successful. Okay. The first principle, we talked about this. You are assigned more work than what you can complete. You are assigned more work than what you can complete. So again, what that comes down to is not getting stressed out, not getting overwhelmed, and not having the expectation that you're going to be the first ever law student to do every single thing that you're assigned, right? The key is time management and the key is prioritization. So make sure you write that down. The key is time management and prioritization. And I've told you today already what to prioritize, right? And then again, I'll tell you when through the 1L Club, when to prioritize the various things. But some of the biggest things to prioritize are practice exams, are outlining, not just being stuck in the learning phase and only doing that, right? And that's the easy thing to do. The easy thing is to just, okay, they assigned this case. Okay, at some point you get comfortable with reading and briefing. And so it's one of those things where like it's movement, but it's not progress, right? You're just constantly reading and briefing cases. So you feel maybe a little productive, but you're not really moving the needle. You're not going anywhere. So we talked about that in depth. Remember that one. Next one, send boldly. Okay, this is a metaphor. And I got this from a professor that I had at Howard University, and the message stuck with me, for this point now, my entire legal career. If you are going to sin boldly. Let's go to Tanya, just really quickly, Tanya. Like, I'm sure that was like a head scratcher for a second, right? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind as I'm telling you to sin boldly? What do you think that means?
Unfortunately, I think it means to go all out and just, and just do whatever I want that's not good for me.
Okay. Very interesting interpretation. And some of that is definitely it, right? Like go hard, right? That is that aspect of it. Sin boldly, like be, right? And be confident. So really what I mean by that is when you're in class and the professor says, hey, do we think this is an offer? Yes or no? Like earlier, Tanya, I get an example and you gave me, right, a quick, confident answer as to whether you thought that was an offer. That is sinning boldly. Versus, do you think this is an offer? And it's like, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. And kind of being in that confused state, right? It's use logic, pick a side and go with it. And guess what? Tanya, is it okay if we're wrong?
Yeah, it's okay if I'm wrong. Yep.
It's okay as long as we learn from our mistakes, which I tell you is going to come up soon. As long as you learn, but like, don't let the fear of being wrong prevent you from taking a side, from taking a stance, because that is how you become a stronger law student, when you can trust your gut. And the only way to trust your gut is to test your gut. So I can talk about this all day. I love this principle, and I want you guys to practice it all on a daily. Okay. I want you to practice taking a side, because I promise you, law school rewards those that take a stance and make it make sense. Right. And of course, you have to make it make sense. And you have to be in the world of what is an option. And right, you can't be completely off the beaten path. But what I can tell you is that even if students know the right answer and know the right things, but they present their work product in a passive, unsure way, it's hard to give you the points. It's hard to feel as if you know it if you're coming off unsure. So you want to sin boldly. The third and last principle is embrace the challenges and learn from your mistakes. Okay. Angel, do you know how to ride a bike?
Yes.
How old were you? Let's just throw out a number, of age. How old were you when you learned how to ride a bike?
4, 5.
Okay. Can we assume that when you were learning to ride a bike that you fell, maybe scraped your knee a little bit, got some bruises possibly?
Yeah.
Right? That's the normal experience. For many of us, or almost all of us, you cannot learn how to ride a bike essentially without falling, without scraping your knee a little bit, right? It would be crazy to expect to learn how to ride a bike without doing that at some point. And so you have to embrace the challenge. When you fall and scratch your knee for the first time, you can't cry. You can't, right, cry for too long at least and think, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do this. You got to get back on the seat and you got to give it another shot. And you might fall again and you got to get back on. And then next thing you know, you're on Venice Beach on the boardwalk, living your best life, coasting down the boardwalk. So the idea is that with law school, embrace the challenges. Everybody coming to law school is smart. Everybody is capable of success and has proven success at some point of their life already if you've made it to law school. Take the slice of humble pie to realize that this is now a new and difficult challenge. And so don't expect the level of success to come immediate and natural as you may be used to in education prior to this. And once you embrace that, it all becomes better. So that way, when you fall off the bike, when you run into that first obstacle, you're not hit with like, oh my God, what is this? I'm going to fail. This is not right. You're going to say, oh, okay, this is normal. All right, I have to take this. I got to learn how to heal from this. And then I keep on moving. So that is a key. All right. I didn't give you guys my story in the beginning, but I was a 4.0 law student that created all of this to help other people be as successful as they wanted to. In my journey as a 1L of being a 4.0 student, I cannot tell you the amount of negative feedback that I got back, throughout the semester on what I needed to improve on. On my midterms, I got B's and C's, right? A lot of C's, right? But all of that was information to learn and to grow from. And because I interpreted it as such, I was able to improve. And then by the time of the final exam, be better than all or most in my class, right? But I didn't get discouraged through all those constant negative feedbacks, all those constant rooms for improvement. So when you take all of this and you have that mindset that's just embracing it and ready for it, you don't stress out so much. You don't get nervous about your ultimate performance. You just stay focused, as we said, about one step in front of the other. Okay. So embrace it. Don't overthink it, and don't have lofty expectations that this is going to be a cakewalk. All right. So that is it for all of the information. We're now going have a little fun and do a takeaway a giveaway. As I pull up the quiz, I'm curious, and let's go back to Tiana. Tiana, can you share with me out of those principles, which one speaks the loudest to you?
I would say the last one about embracing the challenges and learning from your mistakes because this law school is challenging, but it's not impossible. Um, as you mentioned, like everyone at the law school is smart. They all worked hard to get here. Um, trying not to fall like victim to like comparison and all those different things, just keeping my head um, held high and knowing that I'm in a place to succeed here and I do belong. So that's one that I'm going
Good.
to carry with me throughout.
Awesome. I love to hear it. And what a great addition in what she said, right? Of like comparison, because that's also something that like we cannot do, right? Don't go to class and then hear somebody have a great answer to a question that you didn't get and then compare yourself. No, simply download what was just said that was correct and good and keep moving. But there's times, Tiana, where you're going to be the person who gets a topic better than anybody else. There's going to be other times when you don't and somebody else does, but stay out of that, mind state as much as possible of comparison because yeah, everybody's journey will look different. And by the way, everybody, you can start joining this quiz. I shared the screen. You can go to joinmyquiz.com and then type in that code 234804 to be a part of this Master the Subject raffle. It's going to be a quick 10-minute quiz to see who knows, the most about 1L year, some of these things we talked about. Some of the answers will come from the lecture we just did. Some will be from other information that hopefully you gathered at this point. But yeah, Tiana, great answer. Great answer. I love the phrase in that regard. Stay in my lane. Like, let me just stay in my lane. I'm not worried about their lane, what they're doing. I have the clarity, the guiding light as to what I need to do. Let me just focus. All right, so I see we got 5 participants in there. All right, give it a few moments for everybody else to join in. Also, the quiz, it's going to grade you based off of accuracy and also time. So I advise you, right? Send boldly, don't rush, but at the same time, if you have an answer, you have a gut feeling, go with it. Because if for some reason the top 2 scores have the same correct answers, it'll come then down to time. So just something to keep in mind. All right. So I see we have 8 participants in there. Is anybody else still signing in before I go ahead and hit start? Ooh, there we go. Hilda just got in there. Okay. I'm about to hit start unless anybody tells me they're still signing in. Okay, here we go. All right. This should take literally no more than about 2 minutes or so, 10 questions. Good luck. Okay. Oh, in the last seconds, Marcus takes a jump. Awesome. All right. So we got Marcus in first, Patience in second, and Judge Judy. Judge Judy's in here.
Yep.
We have the honor of Judge Judy. Okay, that's Janelle. And so look, it makes sense that Marcus and Janelle placed in the top part of this quiz because they've gone through the Legally Fit training. They've gone through the 1L Club and they're here for either to support you all a little bit and being here, and then also, and as Janelle has, right, some of the nuanced questions for maybe her second year. So that makes sense. I'm curious. I know we've had a Patience before. Patience, are you a 1L? Are you the same Patience that we've had before?
She put a thumbs up.
Okay, so I'm guessing that's
Yes.
in being a 1L. Okay, awesome. And then Marcus, we'll take care of you as we know we've already talked about. And then also for Janelle, right? This is geared towards the 1L. So we're gonna go with a top placing 1L, right? Who has all this new information. And so Patience, congratulations on winning a Master the Subject. So please give Monique, who is in here as Legally Fit.
I'm gonna send her the code in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Oh, perfect. So she'll send you the code and the link to where you can go and get your Master the Subject and pick out which class you want. Now, for all those that did not win, we wanted to offer something again special for all those that stayed to the end and that came to this event. So for everybody, we're giving you a half off coupon, half off of your first purchase with Legally Fit. So if you wanted to buy a Master the Semester for today only, you can get that for $500. If you wanted to get a Master the Subject, instead of $300, it'll be $150. One item, right? Half off. And Monique, are you giving that code to them now, or should they expect to receive that via email?
I am going to give that to them now, and they will also get an email, but I'm putting it in the chat. I put the web address in there, and you're going to use code CRUSH IT.
Perfect. All right. So that code is for half off. And again, reminder, that code is only for today. So if it's something that you're feeling, we've discounted it heavily for you to be able to feel comfortable pulling that trigger. And I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed. These resources are so helpful. They've helped students transfer to their dream schools, earn scholarships that end up paying way more, right, their money back than what they paid for the Legally Fit resources. These are a great tool to make sure you get the most out of your law school success, right? Think of this as insurance, right? Think of this as the X factor and the leg up of, against the competition, giving you something that's going to set you above and beyond. Okay, so that concludes everything. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, all those things. Let me share the screen with all of our handles so you can see that. But we are done for today. Oh, and also,
if you purchase the Master the Subject, not to cut attorney off, you're going to sound so confident your professor is going to be jealous because they speak Spanglish and you explain it in English. That's what Legally Fit does. That's what attorney DeAndre does. Yeah, he speaks English and they speak Spanish.
Thank you, Janae. I appreciate you letting them know that. Exactly. So we're going to translate the law so you guys are good to go. Here's all the contact information. Stay in touch. Pat yourselves on the back. I love seeing just 1Ls, 2Ls taking that extra step to make sure they're going to be successful. So I hope you all have a great rest of your Saturday, knowing you just received so much information that's going to put you in a good position. So keep riding that wave, and I hope you all have a great semester.
Talicia, I believe it is, DeAndre, she had a question from earlier. I told her to hold on that we would get to her question too.
Absolutely. For all those that still have some remaining questions, I'll stick around for another 10, 15 minutes or so. I know we got Janelle. And so, yeah, Talicia, I'll pick up with you. But for everybody, if you're ready to go, you're good to go. Stick around for the questions if you want to hear, and you could ask your own. So, yeah, let's kick it off with Talicia. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. Oop, are you there, Talicia? Okay, we'll see if we come back to Talicia. Any other questions? And again, let's focus first on any other 1L questions, any other 1L questions, preparation questions, questions on anything that we presented today in this presentation.
Talicia, can you unmute yourself? I see you talking in the chat.
Oh, it's in the chat. Let's see what she said.
She said, I'm stuck.
Uh-oh. Sounds like you got to send the SOS. I'm stuck. Where you stuck under?
Okay, hold on. Did I get it?
There you
There
go.
we go.
Oh my God. This technology and having a thumb in a sling is not fun.
Okay, tell me what's your question?
First of all, I wanted to thank you for your session today. You popped up on my phone right when I was getting off the phone with my doctor. So it was a blessing for me to be on today. And I wanted to thank you for that. And secondly, I know I heard you mention $500. I'm a student who is in her. Let me just say I have more gray hairs than most students, and I need to find out if there's a possibility of working some type of payment plan because I would love to participate in your program, and I think it would benefit me 200%. I'm good at listening. My legal writing is good, but a lot of the times the professor tells me that sometimes we write more than they want, and then some professors want more and less. So you're like confused. How do I make each professor happy without losing my mind in the process? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Absolutely. And that's part of the dance, right? That's the thing about writing is that writing is subjective. It's not objective, right? It's not just like, okay, there's an answer, right? It's about, yeah, how much is enough, and part of that is a skill, to be honest, Talisha, as you mentioned, of like, how do I do that? Obviously without going crazy, but that is something that you have to do. You have to learn each professor. And that's why we want to do so much practice essays. But absolutely, all the stuff that I give you gives you a sense of like how to hone in that information, how to focus on what's most important, and typically what is most important for heavily tested fact patterns. So, all that to say, I completely get what you're saying. It's a very normal challenge of law school, and yeah, we would love to assist. As far as the payment plans, Monique, do you have anything for that already, or is that something that she should talk with you privately
Yes,
to
something
discuss?
privately. We don't have anything.
Okay.
Were you thinking about a master of the semester? Is that what you were referencing?
Both. I
Okay,
put my phone number in the chat, Monique, so you can call me whenever you have time. The
Perfect.
424.
Did you get that, Monique? Uh-oh. She might be stuck now too. Okay. Go
Well,
ahead and here's
I'm around when you all have a minute. I would love
yes,
to chat later on today or sometime when you're available.
absolutely. And here's her email address just to be on the safe side. Why don't you just email her your phone number as well, just to make sure she gets it.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions?
This is Tanya again. I had a quick question. In your program, you talked about bar focus. So I'll be taking the Maryland State Bar or the multi-state bar. Does that apply does it matter what state you're going to take the bar in?
So the entire country takes the same multiple choice portion, which is like a huge portion of the bar exam. So contracts, property, torts, etc. They're all on the multiple choice, and they all use questions from the NCBE. The NCBE makes the UBE exam. So multiple states use the UBE exam as in its entirety, and then even for states that have their own tests, like California, they still use the multiple choice portion from the NCBE. So yes, there is law that is universal, but yeah, even if you're in Maryland, compared to the other 29 states that are part of the UBE, it's all the same. The only part that changes from state to state, if you're a UBE state, the only thing that changes is their state's required score for passing. That's where you find the variance, but the exam itself will be the same.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions? All right. So again, you guys have been great. I'm going to take Janelle's 2L, specific question that she had regarding balancing with the clinic and things like that. But yeah, you guys are awesome. Angel getting one right in at the last moment. Go ahead, Angel.
Sorry, I wanted to give everyone a chance to answer to ask theirs because mine is less about one, but more about your journey.
Yeah.
How did you decide which state you wanted to practice the bar in? Did you always want to take the bar in the state that you took it in, or did you have to, go through the process?
Yeah, great question. For me, it wasn't as thought out as you would imagine. For me, I'm from California. I went to school in DC, went to Howard, and I knew I wanted to move back to California, needed that West Coast weather again. And so for me, I was only going to go to law school in California just because I wanted to be back home. And yeah, that's where I wanted to live. So pretty straightforward in that way for me. Now, um, when it comes to law school, eh, everybody goes for a different reason, right? Angel, like some people already have a job lined up and they just need to get a JD, right? So it's like sometimes that just results in what school is the most convenient and or the most cost effective. Some want an experience, some want to get out of town and have an experience and go to a reputable school, right? So like maybe you go to an Ivy League school or another notable school that even though you don't plan on practicing there, you want that experience and you want that particular school on your resume. And so those would be kind of the special scenarios. But I do think then the default scenario should be that you should go to the school in the state that you want to practice in. You don't need to though, especially if you're like going to one UBE state, but you plan on practicing in a different UBE state. The idea there is then that you'll be UBE trained, because you're in still that UBE jurisdiction. The one thing that does get kind of, difficult, but it's still manageable. Like, for example, I'll know people who will come to California. And again, we have slight variations with our bar, but they'll go to, Howard Law School, Harvard Law School, out of state law schools. And then there is a little bit of a transition to learn what they didn't get in a California based school that prepared them for the California bar. But it's something that you can just simply, tack on and learn. So I wouldn't worry about the bar so much as far as picking your school and your location. The last thing is just about networking. So if you don't have a job lined up, it's typically easier to get job offers in the state that you're in. Right. But it's also 2024. And, there's networking online. There's, we get on a plane and go here, go there as we need to. So there's a lot of creativity, a lot of variables. And so, yeah, I think that would be my generic answer without then maybe knowing the specifics of what matters to you to give any further advice. So yeah, I'll pause there to say, like, does that answer your question, or is there anything else that you have that you want to offer to maybe give more?
Yeah, it does. I just wanted your perspective just because right now I'm going to a school in Massachusetts, but I'm thinking about moving back to my home state of Virginia afterwards. And I know with the Virginia bar, there's a little bit more you have to do for that process. So I was just, keeping that in the back of my mind.
Yes, exactly. So one, you can consider transferring right after your first year. But two, yeah, like if there's something specific about the Virginia bar, like it does require now a little bit more work on your end as you get into your 2L and 3L year to make sure you are up to date on whatever steps. Because yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, if you're at a Virginia school, they're making sure they're telling all of their students what they need to do for the Virginia bar. But yeah, Massachusetts and Denver, they're not going to be up to date and knowing that to provide. So yes, in your 2 on 3 year, you just have to do those little extra bits. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. And then again, maybe consider transferring if that's something that's of interest to you after your first year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for all that participation today. You're one of my, top 5 people I was calling on. So appreciate you, showing up and showing out today. Thank you.
Of course.
Absolutely. All right, Janelle, thank you so much for being patient, dealing with all the 1Ls and getting all them situated. So remind me now. You said what?
Absolutely. Been
Yes.
there.
Right. So remind me of your question. You're trying to figure out how to balance between having your clinic and your doctrinal courses. So yeah.
Yeah, I have con law 2. Um and I'm doing trademark clinic, but also a trademark course. And I was wondering, I wanted to add a 5th course, but now I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that because the 5th course, healthcare and law, is testing. And the clinic and the constitution law is also testing, where I have to do the outline and stuff. It's not an essay or anything like that. It's strict testing
Yeah.
to exam. So I'm wondering, first of all, for con law 2, should I, while I'm on break, go over the, necessary and proper, all those stuff right now,
Um,
to piggyback for number 2?
you can do an early start if you want, right? So yeah, you can use a legally fit resource. You can, jump into the book early if you want and get an early start. But it's all a balance, right? Especially as a 2L, you have to balance networking, securing job, this, that, and the third. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but all that to say, with a 2L semester, I would highly prioritize my bar tested subjects over my clinical things because my importance, right? My perspective for every student is that I want and need you all to pass the bar ASAP because the quicker you
Okay.
pass the bar, the quickest you can actually practice and start earning some money. But if you don't pass that bar, you fall into the repeat taker cycle, which is just like really a not great place to be. It ends up taking close to a year, right, to then pass after you fail the first time, just because the exam is only administered twice a year. So again, don't stress out about it. Don't think too much about it. But all that to say, that's why in school, I want you to focus all your attention on your bar tested subjects and really put your priority into those classes. So con law is going to be on the bar. Like make sure you are really giving that a good amount of your time to make sure you're getting this area of law. And then, yeah, use your legally fit resources to make sure, right, you're staying connected with those bar ready rules and helping you navigate that class a lot easier.
Okay. And in terms of like, again, different teacher. The first one was take home, things of that nature, no multiple choice. But again, different teacher, same subject, con law 1, con law 2. Should I like create a new outline? No, it's a new teacher.
Absolutely. And it's going to be new material. Con Law 2 is going to be different subjects, different topics. So absolutely. It's essentially a start from scratch, new outline, new class, new
Okay.
professor. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Perfect. You're welcome. All right, y'all. It's been
And
great.
last question. You don't have anything about, I don't recall anything about trademark, do you, or copyright?
No trademark or copyright. Yeah, because it's not tested on the bar. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. No worries. Great question. We actually need to at some point because we do get a lot of questions. There's a class that a lot of people take, but yeah, we'll see about that in the future. All right, y'all. It's been great. Great class today. Again, congratulations, everybody, for starting law school, continuing law school. Such a great place to be. Remember how blessed you are and how grateful you should be just to even be here to have these problems. Okay. We're all doing this so we can better ourselves and better our lives. Thank you guys for trusting Legally Fit and spending time with me to learn and improve. And remember, we're here to help whenever you need us. And I look forward to seeing you all in the future. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, attorney. Thank you,
Take
Mo
care.
and Anna. Appreciate
Take
you
care,
guys.
bro. I'll keep in touch. No worries.
All right, Marcus.
Have a great Saturday, guys.